What happens when the most powerful predator of our modern world meets the most heavily armored herbivore that ever walked the earth? Today, we're diving into the ultimate hypothetical battle that has fascinated paleontologists and wildlife experts for decades. Picture this: a 660-pound Siberian tiger, armed with razor-sharp claws and bone-crushing jaws, facing off against a 20,000-pound Triceratops, equipped with 3 deadly horns and armor that could stop a bullet. This isn't just about size versus speed. It's about 65 million years of evolution separating 2 apex survival machines. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which creature would walk away from this epic confrontation, but I guarantee the answer will shock you. So buckle up, because we're about to witness nature's most incredible battle that never happened, but absolutely should have. Let's start with our contemporary contender, the Siberian tiger, also known as the Amur tiger. This isn't your average house cat we're talking about here. Standing up to 4 feet tall at the shoulder and stretching up to 13 feet from nose to tail, the Siberian tiger represents the pinnacle of feline evolution. These magnificent beasts can weigh up to 660 pounds of pure muscle, making them the largest cats on Earth. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something most people don't realize. Pound for pound, tigers are stronger than lions, and Siberian tigers are the strongest of all tiger subspecies. Their hunting arsenal is absolutely devastating. Those front paws? Each one is larger than a human head and houses retractable claws that can extend up to 4 inches long. These aren't just for show. They're precision instruments capable of delivering 10,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. That's enough force to shatter bones instantly, but the real weapon is their jaw. A Siberian tiger's bite force reaches an incredible 1,050 psi, and those canine teeth? They're 3 inches of pure death, perfectly designed to penetrate deep into prey and sever spinal cords with surgical precision. Now, what makes tigers truly terrifying isn't just their physical capabilities, it's their intelligence and hunting strategy. These are ambush predators that have perfected the art of stealth over millions of years. A 660-pound tiger can move through dense forest completely silently, becoming virtually invisible until the moment they strike. They're capable of leaping 33 feet horizontally and 16 feet vertically. Imagine a creature that massive flying through the air at you. Their night vision is 6 times better than humans, and their hearing is so acute they can detect the heartbeat of prey from hundreds of feet away. But now, let's talk about their opponent, and this is where things get absolutely insane. The Triceratops wasn't just big, it was monumentally massive. We're talking about an animal that measured up to 30 feet long and 10 feet tall, weighing between 13 to 26,000 pounds. To put that in perspective, that's the weight of 6 to 12 cars combined. This wasn't just a herbivore, this was a walking tank that dominated the landscape 68 million years ago. The name Triceratops literally means 3-horned face, and those horns weren't decorative. The 2 brow horns could grow up to 3 feet long and were as sharp as spears, while the nose horn added another foot of piercing power. These horns were made of solid bone covered in keratin, the same material as rhino horns, making them incredibly durable and deadly. But here's what most people do not know. Recent studies have shown that Triceratops could swing their massive heads at speeds of up to 25 miles per hour. When you combine that speed with 3 razor-sharp horns and 26,000 pounds of momentum, you're looking at a force that could demolish a modern car. The defensive capabilities of Triceratops were equally impressive. That famous frill wasn't just for display. It was a massive shield made of solid bone up to 7 feet wide. This natural armor protected the entire neck and shoulder region, creating an impenetrable fortress around the most vulnerable parts of the body. The skin was incredibly thick, estimated to be up to 2 inches in some areas, with a texture similar to modern rhinos but much tougher. Paleontologists have found Triceratops fossils with T-Rex bite marks that failed to penetrate the hide, proving that even the king of dinosaurs struggled to breach this armor. Here's where the matchup becomes fascinating. The Siberian tiger can reach speeds of up to 50 miles per hour in short bursts, with incredible acceleration that allows them to go from 0 to full speed in just a few strides. Their agility is supernatural. They can change direction mid-sprint, leap over obstacles, and perform aerial maneuvers that seem to defy physics. This mobility has been their greatest asset in hunting prey much larger than themselves, including wild boar weighing up to 700 pounds and even young brown bears. The Triceratops, despite its massive size, was no slouch in the speed department. Recent biomechanical studies suggest they could reach speeds of up to 20 miles per hour, which might not sound impressive until you realize that's a 26,000-pound battering ram moving at highway speeds. Their legs were incredibly powerful, designed to support massive weight while still allowing for surprising mobility. Unlike modern elephants, Triceratops had a more upright posture that would have allowed for better maneuverability and quicker turning radius. Now let's dive into our first confrontation scenario, and this is where strategy becomes crucial. Picture an ancient forest 68 million years ago, dense with ferns and towering conifers. Our Siberian tiger, somehow transported back in time, encounters a lone Triceratops feeding in a small clearing. The tiger's first instinct would be to use the environment to its advantage. Dense vegetation provides perfect cover for an ambush predator. The tiger would likely spend hours stalking, studying the Triceratops' behavior patterns, looking for any sign of weakness or distraction. This is where the tiger's intelligence shines. They're known to observe prey for days before making a move, learning routines and identifying the perfect moment to strike. But here's the problem. Triceratops wasn't just built for defense, it was built for awareness. Those eyes were positioned to provide nearly 360-degree vision, and their hearing was exceptional. The moment our tiger made the slightest sound or movement, those massive horns would be turning toward the threat. In dense forest, the Triceratops' size becomes both a disadvantage and an advantage. While it limits mobility, it also means that any tree or obstacle the tiger might use for cover could be demolished by a simple charge. The tiger's best strategy would be to attempt a rear attack, targeting the hindquarters or attempting to reach the neck area behind the frill. But even this presents problems. The Triceratops' tail was thick and powerful, capable of delivering devastating blows. And if the tiger managed to get close enough to attack, it would be within range of those back legs, each capable of delivering kicks with the force of a sledgehammer. Our second scenario takes place along an ancient riverbank, where both animals might come to drink. This environment changes everything. The muddy, uneven terrain would significantly impact the Triceratops' stability and charging ability, while providing the tiger with better footing for its agile maneuvers. Water introduces a completely new dynamic. Tigers are excellent swimmers, one of the few big cats that actually enjoy water. They can swim for miles and are capable of taking down prey even while swimming. A Triceratops, with its massive weight and body structure, would be much more vulnerable near water. If it lost its footing or was somehow forced into deep water, its fate would be sealed. But here's where we have to consider the intelligence factor again. Triceratops lived in herds for a reason: mutual protection. A lone individual would be extremely cautious near water, knowing instinctively that predators use these locations for ambushes. The tiger would have to be incredibly patient, waiting for the perfect moment when the Triceratops lowered its head to drink and temporarily blocked its own vision. Even then, the attack window would be measured in seconds. The tiger would need to deliver a killing blow immediately, because once that massive head came up and those horns oriented toward the threat, the battle would be over. And here's something crucial. If the tiger's initial attack failed to be immediately lethal, it would have no escape route. Unlike hunting modern prey, there's no realistic way a tiger could retreat and try again against a Triceratops. The third scenario might be the most interesting: an open savanna environment with minimal cover. This strips away most of the tiger's natural advantages while playing directly into the Triceratops' strengths. In open terrain, that 20-mile-per-hour charging speed becomes absolutely devastating. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, and no way to approach without being seen. But let's think about this strategically. What if our tiger waited for the right environmental conditions? A dust storm, heavy rain, or the cover of darkness could level the playing field. Tigers have that incredible night vision advantage, and even a Triceratops would struggle to defend against an enemy it couldn't see clearly. The open savanna scenario also forces us to consider endurance. Tigers are sprint hunters, built for explosive power over short distances. They typically can't maintain top speed for more than a few hundred meters before becoming exhausted. Triceratops, as a large herbivore, would have had much better endurance, capable of maintaining defensive postures and moderate speeds for extended periods. In a prolonged encounter, time would favor the dinosaur. Let's break down exactly how each animal would attempt to kill the other, because this is where the science gets really fascinating. The tiger's killing technique is precision personified. They go for what's called the killing bite, targeting either the throat to crush the windpipe or the back of the neck to sever the spinal cord. Their canine teeth are perfectly spaced to fit between vertebrae, and their jaw muscles are designed to clamp down and hold until the prey stops struggling. Against a Triceratops, this presents an almost impossible challenge. That massive frill protects the entire neck area, and the throat is positioned so low that reaching it would require the tiger to expose itself completely to those deadly horns. Even if the tiger somehow managed to get past the frill, the Triceratops's neck was incredibly muscular and thick, protected by additional layers of fat and tough hide. The Triceratops's attack strategy would be completely different. Those horns weren't just for defense, they were offensive weapons capable of goring attacks that could penetrate several feet into an opponent. The head-swinging motion would be similar to a modern bull, but amplified by massive size and weight. A single successful gore could literally impale a tiger, lifting it off the ground and causing massive internal trauma. But perhaps even more dangerous would be the trampling attack. Those feet were the size of dinner plates, and a single stomp from a 26,000-pound animal would be instantly fatal. The Triceratops wouldn't need to be precise, just getting the tiger on the ground would essentially end the fight. Here's where we need to consider the psychological aspect of this confrontation. Modern tigers are incredibly intelligent, capable of learning from experience, adapting hunting strategies, and even using tools in some circumstances. They're solitary hunters that rely on patience, planning, and perfect execution. A tiger would likely spend considerable time assessing this unusual prey, possibly even attempting smaller probing attacks to test defenses. Triceratops, while not as cognitively advanced as modern predators, would have had well-developed survival instincts honed over millions of years of evolution. They lived in a world filled with massive predators, including T-Rex, so their defensive behaviors would be deeply ingrained. The moment they identified a threat, their response would be immediate and overwhelming. This creates an interesting dynamic. The tiger's greatest strength, its intelligence and adaptability, might actually work against it in this scenario. The more time it spends analyzing and planning, the more likely the Triceratops is to detect the threat and prepare its defenses. Conversely, the Triceratops' instinct-driven response system would activate immediately, giving no quarter for hesitation or second-guessing. We also need to consider how environmental conditions would affect this battle. Temperature plays a huge role in animal performance. Tigers are adapted for cold climates and actually perform better in cooler temperatures. The Siberian subspecies specifically evolved to handle extreme cold, with their metabolism optimized for harsh conditions. In the warm Cretaceous climate that Triceratops lived in, our tiger might be operating at less than peak efficiency. Oxygen levels were also different 68 million years ago. The atmosphere contained more oxygen, which would benefit both animals, but might give a slight edge to the larger Triceratops, whose massive lungs could take better advantage of the richer air. This could translate to better endurance and sustained performance during a prolonged encounter. Terrain variations would dramatically affect the outcome. Rocky, uneven ground would favor the more agile tiger, while flat, solid surfaces would give the advantage to the charging Triceratops. Dense vegetation provides concealment for ambush tactics, but also limits the tiger's ability to build up speed and momentum for attacks. Let's talk numbers because they're absolutely staggering. We're comparing a 660-pound predator to an animal that could weigh up to 26,000 pounds. That's a 40-to-1 weight difference. To put this in perspective, it would be like a 4-pound house cat trying to take down a 160-pound human. Even accounting for the tiger's superior weaponry and hunting instincts, the physics of this encounter are almost insurmountable. But here's where it gets interesting. Tigers have successfully hunted animals much larger than themselves. They regularly take down water buffalo weighing over 1,500 pounds, and there are documented cases of tigers killing adult brown bears weighing up to 1,400 pounds. However, even the largest prey tigers hunt naturally is still only about 2 to 3 times their own weight. A Triceratops represents a 40-fold weight advantage, putting it in completely uncharted territory. The leverage and physics involved in a tiger's killing bite are calculated for animals within a certain size range. The spacing of their canine teeth, the power of their jaw muscles, the length of their claws, all of these are optimized for prey in the hundreds to low thousands of pounds range. Against Triceratops, these perfectly evolved tools might simply be insufficient to cause meaningful damage. The defensive comparison is where this matchup becomes almost comical in its one-sidedness. A tiger's defense relies primarily on speed, agility, and avoiding damage altogether. Their strategy is to be too fast and too smart to get hit in the first place. When they do engage in direct combat, it's usually a brief, explosive encounter that ends quickly. Triceratops represents the opposite philosophy. Absorb everything your opponent can throw at you and hit back harder. That bony frill could deflect attacks that would be lethal to almost any other animal. The thick hide could stop claws and teeth that would easily penetrate other targets. Even the positioning of vital organs was optimized for defense, with the heart and lungs protected behind layers of bone and muscle. But perhaps most importantly, Triceratops had what engineers call redundant systems. Even if a tiger somehow managed to cause significant damage to one area, the dinosaur had backup systems and alternative ways to continue fighting. A tiger, being built for precision and efficiency, has no such redundancy. Any significant injury would compromise its ability to hunt and fight effectively. So here's the ultimate question that's been building throughout this entire analysis. Who would actually win this prehistoric showdown? And you know what? I've been getting comments on all my videos asking exactly this question. Some of you are Team Tigers all the way, convinced that speed and intelligence always beat brute force. Others are absolutely certain that size matters above all else. Before I give you my final verdict, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now telling me who you think would win and why. Are you betting on the modern apex predator or the prehistoric tank? Based on everything we've analyzed, the biomechanics, the size differential, the environmental factors, the hunting strategies, and the defensive capabilities, there's really only one realistic conclusion. As incredible as the Siberian tiger is, as perfect a predator as evolution has created, the Triceratops would win this encounter decisively. The size difference is simply too enormous to overcome. Even if the tiger executed a perfect ambush attack and managed to land its killing bite, the thickness of the Triceratops' hide and the protection of that massive frill would likely prevent any lethal damage. Meanwhile, a single successful attack from the Triceratops, whether a horn gore, a powerful kick, or simply trampling, would be instantly fatal to the tiger. This isn't a criticism of the tiger's abilities. In their respective time periods and environments, both animals were perfectly adapted apex species. The Triceratops was built to survive in a world of giants, where even the predators weighed multiple tons. The Siberian tiger evolved to be the ultimate predator in a world of smaller, more agile prey. Neither animal would be out of place in their own era, but transplant them into each other's world, and the size differential becomes impossible to ignore. The only scenario where the tiger might have a chance would be if it somehow managed to force the Triceratops into very specific environmental conditions, like deep water or extremely unstable terrain, where the dinosaur's weight became a severe disadvantage. But even then, the tiger would need to deliver a perfect killing blow immediately, because any prolonged encounter would inevitably favor the larger animal. What makes this hypothetical battle so fascinating isn't just the outcome, it's what it teaches us about evolution, adaptation, and survival strategies. The Siberian tiger represents the pinnacle of predatory evolution in the modern world, a perfect balance of size, strength, intelligence, and hunting ability. But 68 million years ago, the rules of survival were completely different. In a world where herbivores weighed as much as modern trucks and predators were the size of city buses, different adaptations were necessary for survival. The Triceratops would win not because it was a better fighter, but because it was built for a more dangerous world. Every aspect of its anatomy, from the massive horns to the protective frill to the incredibly thick hide, was a response to predation pressure from animals that dwarfed our modern tigers. In that context, even the most perfect modern predator would be operating at a severe disadvantage. But here's what I love about this comparison. It shows us just how incredible both of these animals really are. The fact that we can even have this discussion, that a modern predator could theoretically pose any threat at all to a creature 40 times its size, speaks to the absolutely extraordinary capabilities that evolution has produced in the Siberian tiger. If you enjoyed this deep dive into prehistoric versus modern predators, make sure you smash that like button, because it really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more content like this. Subscribe and ring that notification bell because I've got some absolutely insane animal matchups coming up, including some battles that might surprise you with their outcomes. And hey, share this video with that friend who's always arguing about who would win in animal fights. We all have that friend, right? What's your dream animal matchup? Drop your suggestions in the comments, and maybe your idea will be featured in the next episode. Until then, keep wondering, keep learning, and remember, nature is way more incredible than we could ever imagine.